We're back, and today we want to talk more about cravings and how to really be free of them and look at in more detail what it is that drives us to use food or other things to try to find relief from the way we feel.
Yeah, we talk about cravings a lot because, well, they play such an important role in our health. If we follow our cravings, we're often not eating the healthiest diet we could. But when we look at cravings and habits around food, what we see is that it's really not all that much about food. So if we look at, I'm just thinking my own life, I mean, every day something comes up that I see, well, I could do this, but I kind of pull away. I kind of avoid it. And as I was reflecting on that the other day, I was seeing how, am I trying to avoid, let's say, contacting somebody by email? It's like, oh, I can email this person. Maybe I'll find something else to do. There's these little avoidances. And it looks like what I'm avoiding is writing the email. But on reflection, what I see I'm avoiding is some feelings I'm afraid are going to come out of writing the email, either during the writing or their response.
So it's really feelings that you're avoiding. It's really feelings that you don't want to feel.
That's, I look at every situation of avoidance in my life, what I would call avoidance. And it's not the circumstance. We say time and time again, circumstances are neutral. Writing an email, having a tough conversation with a loved one, those kinds of things. The circumstance is neutral. What creates the energy around it that I'm trying to avoid is the feeling that comes with that thought about writing the email, having the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not sure a lot of people realize that where our feelings come from is our thinking, even though the thought may not be so obvious. The source is our thinking about a circumstance.
Yeah, and that's what's so revolutionary, we feel, or radical about the coaching that we do, is because it brings us back to the awareness that our experience of life comes from our moment to moment thinking, not the circumstance.
Yeah.
So it turns life, in a way, upside down on its head, because when I used to think that the circumstance created my experience, if I was cut off in traffic or if I had to make a hard conversation with someone, I would try to manage the circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, it would give me short-term relief. Oh, I don't have to do that right now. But it never resolved the situation because I always had the same thoughts about that circumstance. So when we see that our feelings, our experience of life come from our thinking about the circumstance, I'm no longer tempted to try to manage the circumstance to find the peace and the relaxation, the ease in my life that I'm looking for.
Well, how do we find that peace and ease so we're not driven by these feelings to reach for things to try to soothe ourselves?
Yeah, it is that insight into this principle that my experience comes from my moment to moment thinking, because it no longer makes any sense to try and manage things out there when I feel upset or I'm having a negative emotion or I'm avoiding something, because I recognize that what's occurring right now is coming from inside me. So I want to look here instead of there. So I was thinking about a situation that came up recently that really was a wonderful demonstration to me about how, as we get more grounded in this understanding that life works inside out, not outside in, I got an email from someone who said they were very unhappy with something I'd done. And I haven't had an email like that. I haven't had somebody say that to me for a long time. And given my past of having been a real people pleaser, in the past, that is the worst that can happen.
The
You're unhappy
worst.
with me.
Yeah.
So in the past, what that would start would be, what have I done? What did I do wrong? What can I do to fix this? How, I'm trying to get it right by someone else. So it was so interesting to see now. I get this email that says, I'm very unhappy with what you've done. And I don't go into that old fight or flight, really. It's what it is. It's like, how can I survive this?
Mhm.
I don't go into it. And I found that so interesting. And on reflecting on why I believe that I don't react like I used to, it's because as I get more grounded in seeing in my own life that whatever feelings I have, whatever experience I'm having around a circumstance in my life, it's not the other person or what's going on. It's my thinking about what's going on. So when I get this email and I don't react, it all just unfolded naturally. But looking back on it now, I see I don't believe I react because I now see that life is experienced through my thinking. And that's the truth of life. That's the principle of how life works. So that's like 1 + 1 = 2. That's the truth. That's just, you can believe whatever you want. 1 + 1 = 3 or 1 + 1 = 5. But when it comes down to living life, 1 + 1 = 2. So when I get this email that says, oh, you've done something, I mean, they didn't say you did something, I'm unhappy with you. It's what I see in that is that what's coming at me is somebody saying 1 + 1 = 3. I can't buy into it anymore because when somebody reacts, I see it's not about the circumstance they're in, or if they're reacting about me, it's not about me.
True.
It's about their thinking about what's occurring, what's showing up in their life. So, I mean, it was just so wonderful to see that the peace and the ease and the lack of stress that can come from this insight, which is like a whole paradigm shift. You see, instead of looking at life from outside in, oh my gosh, I've got to control my world to be okay, it's all inside out. So if I'm not feeling okay, I look here.
When you recognize that it is your own thinking that's creating this, whatever the feelings are, that's a great thing. And then what do you do next?
Well, when I see that, like this email, for example, so I'm not happy with what you've done. If I'm really grounded and I don't buy into the 1 + 1 = 3, then I just kind of reflect. I'm not upset. I haven't shaken up that snow globe. My mind didn't get all wound up. So I have clarity in that moment. I don't have to do anything when I'm grounded in this. But if I do get triggered, which can still happen sometimes in my life, if I do get triggered, now that trigger, that negative emotion, that upset is like there's a part of my brain now that's kind of reminding me, oh, this is a shaken snow globe. This isn't really about that. So I pause and
That's
let
the
the snow
key.
globe settle.
Yeah. So you just relax and pause and let the mind settle down.
Yeah.
And then there's clarity.
And then there's the clarity to go ahead and deal with the situation at hand. And, so I wrote an email back that, didn't even address the fact that I've done something wrong. What can I do to make it right? Now, it was just like, oh, I'm so sorry you're upset with me. I can see how you feel that way. And all that I was doing was da da da. And what can we do to make it right? And so we've just been working on what can we do to make it right. And it just avoids that whole me and them kind of battle. And they've got to see my point of view. And they're thinking, he's got to see my point of view. And
Yeah.
it just, so how does this relate to food? Because that's where we started really in craving.
Right. Well, the way it relates to food is we get a strong urge or a strong feeling, and I've got to find something to calm down. We can reach for food, and that might give us temporary relief, but not long term. Or we can just pause, as you said, in the moment, relax, let the mind settle, and then check in and see what our next is. What from that place of clarity do I wish to move toward next? And then move there.
Yeah, so the next time a craving comes up and you're thinking about some food and you know you're not hungry, just take a moment, check in and see if what's driving that craving. Is it that you're wanting to avoid something? And is it the circumstance you're trying to avoid? Or is it a feeling from the thinking about the circumstance or what might happen if I do this or that? Yeah.
And pause and set the snow globe down. Let that mind settle down. And then see what your next is, and it won't be the food.
And so that's what we love about this understanding, this inside out nature of life. Understanding that is that it not only brings peace in my life in terms of how I relate to things that show up and to the people I work with and live with and everything else, but it diffuses the whole cycle that used to drive me to unhealthy habits of whatever those habits are. You know, for some it's food, for some it's shopping, for some it's alcohol, who knows? But that all gets uncoupled because I'm no longer using that as my method to find temporary relief.
Yeah, yeah. There's deep relief when we set the snow globe down. Then we just settle into our true nature, and we have so much clarity from there and wisdom. So, recipe. I got to remember this wonderful salad we made.
Yeah.
And what it was is spinach, fennel, mango. It was so yummy, and avocado and green onions and a lime and vinegar dressing. Really tasty, so fresh. Oh, and I forgot the important ingredient, arugula. That
Oh,
gave
yeah,
it zing,
that's
and
important.
fresh basil.
Yeah.
They gave it a lot of flavor, so give it a go. It's a wonderful introduction to spring.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. It's lovely to be with you again.